What up guys, Miguel here, Tech, and we have heard you. It's mid-2019 and we know you guys want to get your top 10 list under a certain price point. This is our top 10 list for smartphones under 15,000 pesos. So, the parameters for this list is a bit different from our previous list, so listen up. The price range for this list will be between 10,000 pesos and 15,000 pesos. We have rankings now. Our rankings will be based on our opinions based off the times we've spent with these phones. Please do keep in mind that those opinions are subjective, so take it with a grain of salt. At the end of the day, it is your money. So, let's get right into that list. On our number 10 spot, we have the Vivo V11i. This configuration of the V11i has 6GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage. It sports a 6.3-inch screen, a Helio P60 chipset, a 16 plus 5 megapixel dual rear camera, a 25 megapixel front camera, and a 3,315 mAh battery. The V11i will set you back with an updated price of 12,990 pesos. On our number 9 spot, we have the OPPO F9. A refinement from the F7, it's got a unique glaring back design and I think it's really dope. You get a 3,500 mAh battery with VOOC flash charge, a 16 megapixel plus 2 megapixel dual rear camera, again a 25 megapixel front facing camera. You also get a Helio P60 chipset like the V11i from before, and like the V11i, this configuration is also for the 6GB of RAM plus 64GB of internal storage configuration. The OPPO F9 is even more affordable now at 13,990 pesos. On our number 8 spot, we have the ASUS ZENFONE Max Pro M2. Powering the ZENFONE Max Pro M2 is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 660, and you get Android 8.1 Oreo out of the box. The reason the ASUS ZENFONE Max Pro M2 is on our number 8 spot is because of that whopping 5,000 mAh battery. And like the previous phones mentioned, the Max Pro M2 is configured at 6GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage and will set you back 14,995 pesos. On our number 7 spot, we have the Xiaomi Mi 8 Lite. Powering the Mi 8 Lite is a Qualcomm Snapdragon 660. You get a 3,350 mAh battery, but what sets this aside from the last 3 phones is USB Type-C support. This variant of the Mi 8 Lite will be the 4GB of RAM plus 64GB of internal storage variant and will set you back 11,390 pesos. On our number 6 spot, we have last year's ASUS ZENFONE 5. On last year's ZENFONE 5, you get a 6.2-inch Full HD Plus IPS display with a resolution of 2246 by 1080. You also get a Snapdragon 636 on here, and yes, it's not as powerful as the previous phones I just mentioned, but the reason this ASUS ZENFONE 5 is on the number 6 spot is because of those amazing cameras. For video, you get 4K recording, and for stills, you get RAW file support. Not to mention, it got a score of 90 on the ExoMark, and from what my colleagues tell me, that's a pretty high score, so go get this phone if you want those dope-ass cameras. This particular ZENFONE 5 is configured with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage, and you also get expandable storage of up to 2 terabytes. The ASUS ZENFONE 5 will set you back now 14,995 pesos. On our number 5 spot, we have the Samsung Galaxy A30. So the Galaxy A30 sports a 6.4-inch screen, an Exynos 7904 chipset, 16 plus 5 megapixel dual rear cameras, and a 16 megapixel front-facing one. It's also got a 4,000 mAh battery on board, so running the show on the software side of things is of course our favorite, or at least my favorite, One UI. And if that isn't a reason to get yourself an A30, well, maybe the price will sway your minds. The Galaxy A30 on this list will cost you 13,990 pesos, and that's for the 4GB of RAM plus 64GB of internal storage variant. Our number 4 spot goes to a phone a lot of you Filipino consumers were looking for when it first launched in China. It's none other than the Redmi Note 7. For specs, you get an impressive 6.3-inch screen. Powering it is a Snapdragon 660, and you get a 48 megapixel plus 5 megapixel dual rear camera, a 13 megapixel front camera, and a 4,000 mAh battery. The Redmi Note 7 comes in 3 configurations, but this particular one is the top of the line configuration with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of internal storage. making this device the device with the highest internal storage capacity on this list. And it's pretty much a steal with a price of 11,490 pesos. So check that out. On the number 3 spot, we have the Realme 3 Pro. You get a 6.3-inch Full HD Plus display with Corning Gorilla Glass 5 for that extra protection. You get a Snapdragon 710 chipset, an Adreno 616 GPU. You get a 16 megapixel plus 5 megapixel dual rear camera, a 25 megapixel front-facing camera. You get Android 9 Pie out of the box with ColorOS 6 skinned on top, and a pretty big 4045 mAh battery with 20-watt VOOC 3 flash charge. For this phone, you get 2 pricing options that fit the list. That's 12,990 pesos for the 4 gigs of RAM plus 64 gigs of internal storage variant, and 14,990 pesos for the 6 gigs of RAM plus 128 gigs of internal storage variant. On our number 2 spot, hold up, might seem a little controversial, we have the Honor Play. For as to why it's controversial, obviously it's because of everything that's been happening with Huawei, but this is a flagship phone from Honor, a sub-brand of Huawei, and it deserves a spot on this list, what can I say? Powering it is a Kirin 970 chipset, you get 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigabytes of internal storage, and will set you back 13,990 pesos. Finally, we are now here in our number 1 spot, and it goes to one of our favorite phones from 2018, the Pocophone F1. Oh, just like the Honor Play, the Pocophone F1 is a great deal even now because of that amazing processor. But before that, you do get a 6.18-inch Full HD Plus IPS LCD panel, and that processor is a Snapdragon 845. You also get a 12 plus 5 megapixel dual rear camera on this device that supports dual pixel autofocus, which is pretty nice, and a 4,000 mAh battery. This configuration of the Pocophone F1 is of the 6 gigs of RAM plus 64 gigs of internal storage variant, and it will set you not more than 14,990 pesos. So check that out now. Alright, so that was our mid-2019 top 10 list for smartphones under 15,000 pesos that you can buy right now, obviously. And if you guys, if you guys feel like we missed something that should be on our list, let us know in the comment section below. But if you found this video helpful, be sure to smack that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that bell icon so you get notified of our future uploads. Be sure to visit yugatech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. And again, this has been Miguel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.